We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Hey, welcome to the Supernatural Hour podcast. I am your host, Raven.
This is Emmett.
This is Chad.
Did you forget who you
I'm
were?
trying to think who I am. Where the hell's Doc?
Yeah, you get someone off. Yeah, Doc can't be here with us tonight because his schedule just is too doctory. And then Rogue is not with us tonight. She decided that she needed a vacation, so she's off to South Dakota. But we have with us Jess. She is Emmett's daughter, actually. We probably should have had him introduce her, but hey, you know.
She's in the big leagues now. She can investigate on her own.
Yeah.
No longer in my shadow.
She is actually one of our investigators. So
hello.
Welcome.
I'm so happy to
Welcome.
be here.
Yeah.
yeah, we're happy to have you here.
Okay, so for the business, it's brought to you by Castle Photo Art. When you need pictures, go to Castle. And we're going to be having our pictures taken pretty quick by Castle, right? Saturday. Okay, that's pretty quick.
Which means I need to go buy us all matching clothes.
Okay.
Cool.
So for your photo needs, check out Castle Photo Art, and you can check him on our Advanced Paranormal page. We've got a link there to it.
Also, Merker.
Oh, yeah. What date is that? We're going to have a public investigation at Merker Cemetery.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, we are. We don't have the date right as we are recording, but we will have it posted up on our Facebook page.
It will be a
Soon.
Saturday early in August.
Yeah, so just watch for that. It's coming up pretty quick.
Okay.
It's already almost the middle of July, for heaven's sakes. How'd that happen?
Quickly. It happened quickly.
Okay.
Okay. So Rogue was going to do the residentials, but we'll have Emmett do them.
And we just had a really interesting one, and Jess actually was at that one. Do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I got to try out some of my personal new kit, so that was really fun. Had EVP. Didn't get anything at that time, but there was a lot of elementals there that was new for me.
Right, so this lady called me. She just, she, very, very nice woman. Very cute little family. And she had just some concern. She had a door shut that she couldn't explain, and just kind of the feels, and it just scared her. And so she had us come over. She actually called me when I was in Egypt. And so I said, you know what, the spirits have to kind of do what you tell them because you have dominion over them. And so I told her, I said, tell them just to go across the street, and when I get back from Egypt, we'll come in and chat with them. So she did, and they did. They just hung out across the street. And so when we got there, we called them back over, and they came over. And there was an elemental that we dealt with, and a little boy, an older woman, and 3 girls that we helped cross over. And I just want to make a little mention of crossing over. When it comes to crossing over, spirits have the ability to cross themselves over. They just get really hyper-focused on other things. And so, when we say, we cross things over, what we do is we just focus our energy on the light so that the spirits can see that, and they cross themselves over. So that's kind of our method.
Yeah, so we're not forcing anybody to cross over. That's what it's their choice. They have their agency. A lot of them get a little bit lost and they're not sure, maybe a little fearful, not quite sure what to do. Some of them want to stick around and stay on this plane. So
yeah, for example, the older woman's spirit, she didn't want to cross. And so we said, well, that's fine. Again, it's her agency. But we said you can't, stay in the house because the homeowner doesn't want you here. So you need to go find somewhere else to go. And she left on her own. So.
And you remember that residential we did in downtown Salt Lake last winter? And I felt this and heard this, and it was kind of a new experience for me. But the old woman didn't want to cross over because she couldn't find her husband right away.
Right.
And then eventually she did, and they both went through. But so that was an eye opener for me too. And you felt that, right? You heard that?
Yes.
And I think Andy did too.
Yes. And the thing about about spirits getting hyper focused. I honestly don't know what it is, but when I had the spirit follow me home from Salem, she thought that I was her mother's accuser. And, that boggled my mind. It's like, she was just so focused on me, she couldn't see anything
So you
else.
got right on her good side right away.
Right away.
Right away, yeah. She just came right home. She tried to push me down the stairs and all sorts of stuff. But, we just had to bring her attention to the fact that, hey, it's not the 1500s anymore, lady. Look around. And we literally had to force her, look at my cell phone, look around, look at what we're wearing. Does any of this look familiar at all to you? And it took some talking to get her to...
Yeah, the one she wants is already on her side.
Right.
That reminds me of the loom room lady at Benson.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they just get real hyper-focused on their one thing. So, yeah, when we cross things over, we don't cross. We just draw their attention to the light so that if they choose to do so, they can cross themselves. But this woman, going back to the residential, squirrel, she actually was very interested in everything, and she and I talked on the phone yesterday for about an hour. She just had a lot of questions, and we'd answer a question, and she's like, well, that brings up more questions. And that's one of the reasons why the paranormal is so interesting, is there's just never-ending questions.
What's amazed me too is not only this one, but the one before. We seem to be, and I don't know if it's a sign of the times or what, but we're finding more and more kids that are experiencing, some powerful paranormal episodes, and it's not phasing them.
No.
They're like, they accept it, they take it in stride, and they're like strong personalities.
Absolutely. That last one we did that had the portal that kind of was a column that went through the floor and up to the other room, which we haven't run into it. I mean, those kids were asking just as good questions as we were.
Mm-hmm.
They were brave, too.
It's like, I wish you guys weren't so little. I'd just bring you on the team.
Yeah.
They were sent, and they weren't afraid of it at all. Well, they were a little afraid.
Concerned, they want to know.
Concerned,
Yeah.
but they weren't. I mean, they were just getting right up there asking questions.
When you
and-
have spooky spider-looking things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little
It's a little creepy.
creepy, but they weren't afraid to get in there and do what needed to be done, and they followed us around and ask questions, and they weren't cowering in a corner.
Well, it helps that their parents didn't get all hysterical.
They were
about
very
it either.
supportive.
Yes, absolutely.
That little girl went right in that crawl space and was like, I'm done with this. So brave.
She was so amazing.
Yeah, that was a cute family.
Yep. So that's about it on the recent residentials.
Well, it was interesting that the elemental in the closet was trying to appear as a type 2. That was kind of interesting.
And that is unusual because usually the elementals they don't give a hoot about you unless you're really being disrespectful to something, on their land or their immediate environment.
Yeah, one of the things, elementals are always really hard for me to peg. I'm getting better at it, but this is what I have noticed in my experience, is if it's a benign, nice, confused, normal, type 1 spirit, they'll usually just tell you the truth. They might be a little confused, but, they usually just ask a question, they answer it, or they don't answer it. The type 3s, the demonic entities, they lie. And all you have to do, in the course of asking questions, I'll ask the same question a couple different ways. And if I get conflicting answers, I'll ask it a third and fourth way. And if they keep conflicting and it's like, I don't think you're
Being straight.
being straight. But the thing about the elementals is their answers are just all over the place. It's hard to describe. You've got, we'll just answer your question. You've got, we're going to lie to you, and then when you call us out, then I guess we'll be straight with you. But elementals they're just all over the board, at least with me. And that's one way I've started to kind of narrow it down to, what? Let's kind of go along the elemental track and try to figure out if you're just messing with me.
Yeah, just that random element, and they just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Really, they don't care if the humans are mad or not.
Yep. Don't care. Maybe they don't understand certain questions. I don't know. This is something I want to kind of investigate a little bit more. But yeah, you do this long enough and you start to go, I don't think this is a 1, 2, or 3.
You're
Cool.
never done learning.
Nope. Okay, Emmett, before your segment, we just want to mention that it's brought to you by Oteos, and they have fantastic gourmet Mexican food. It's amazing.
Yum. Okay, this week I just want to talk about laser grids, and I brought a few examples that I can hold up to the microphone so everybody can see them. But
We'll get pictures and put them on the YouTube.
Just
Okay.
jiggle them. We can hear it.
yeah, here we go. So here's the, just a few major types, but I mean, we can break them down into two types. There's the one that it's like a dot matrix, okay? And you could turn the dial and make it from just a coarse grid of dots to a very incredibly populated grid of fine dots.
And that's the one I use, right?
Like this. Jess, you want to fire that one up? This
Yeah.
is out of Jess's new kit.
Oops, she
I
grabs
guess we don't
everything.
need the
But,
tripod.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I have. So if you've ever investigated with me and I've pulled out the laser grid,
So
Yeah.
it does like this, and then you can spin it and does different patterns.
And they
Yep.
come in red or green.
I've actually seen purple. I want a purple one.
And then this is one we just got last year, and we haven't used it too much yet. But this is there, look up. It's actually a true grid.
Yes, and actually, Christy has one of these.
So
Is that one similar to what it was Christy that used it on
At
that
the-
investigation?
At that residential, yeah.
a
I
couple
thought
of
I'd
weeks
seen
ago.
one recently that
Yeah, she's
somebody
got
had.
one.
So yeah, they're both out there. So I just and to me, I haven't gotten any evidence with the straight line grid. I've only had evidence like maybe twice with the dot style. But what do you like?
So I don't use the grid a whole lot on residentials, simply because I haven't gotten a lot of evidence from those.
So
That being said, I will pull it out on public investigations. One, just for visual entertainment, but different people see things differently, and so I sometimes will pull it out on a public investigation and see if other people see things. But I have had more success with the grid one, Christie's. She's only used it a couple times because she hasn't been with us too terribly long, but I've seen more in the grid one than I have in the dot one.
This is newer to me, so I haven't researched a lot, but I've never seen evidence of what it looks like yet. So I'm curious to see like what does it actually look like when it's in the grid.
Well, the dot, I've seen it twice with the dot type. And what it looks like is that there is something that isn't quite there, and the dots are shifting.
like
slightly.
an invisible looking.
Like there's,
thing.
yeah.
Like
something-
Harry Potter's like invisible cloak.
Yeah, and it can be subtle sometimes, and you have to be careful because, generally air currents won't do it, but, a piece of moving cloth or tissue or a curtain. But that's what it looks like, and it's very subtle at times. So that's what I've seen, and is that what you've seen?
So the few things that I've seen is just, you're staring at it, and in order to catch evidence, you almost have to be filming it at the same time.
Yeah,
But you'll
it's
just
fleeting.
see, it's almost, to me, the way I want to describe it is if you've seen Terminator, No, not Terminator. The other Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. This is why I don't do movie reviews. The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like an alien.
The metal
thing,
face thing.
But he's. Everyone's just staring at me like
Yeah.
I.
Running Man.
not Kindergarten Cop.
No.
I was thinking the twins one. Yeah.
Oh, what is it? But he looks like the background. I mean, like you're looking at the trees, and it's just trees, and then something moves.
Yeah, it's just like a shift.
Predator.
Yeah.
Predator. Yes.
That documentary.
Yes.
Yeah, like something's cloaked.
Yeah. Someone's listening to this, going Predator, stupid Predator, 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 and I'm, yeah. But to me, it's almost like that. You just kind of see this shift, and it's like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah, I think that's kind of it. That it's there-ish.
Right. So the residential that we were at, the one in Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs,
Sarah yeah.
where Christy brought her grid one, and I don't remember if it was pictures that I took or if it was pictures that Christy took or Vivian took.
I don't think I was at that one.
But
so.
Vivian, maybe I took him because I was showing. We were looking at him on the phone, and she's like, "Look right there," and there was kind of a shadow. So I need to actually go back and look at those a little closer.
Yeah, and it was down in the lower right-hand corner in this situation. That was kind of by where that portal was in that closet.
Yeah.
And it was the laser grid was dimmer in that area. where it was strong, kind of like the one that you just showed here with the red, and it was there. But it was
It like
it was-
absorbed the light
Yeah.
energy.
I mean, there was still some there, but it was like dimmer. But there wasn't anything in its way.
Right.
There wasn't anything that you'd go, oh, there's, something that would do that. And I was standing out away from it. Raven was a little bit closer, kind of almost. I think you were in the grid at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, the
I
grid,
had to keep stepping out of it because like, oh, sorry, I'm screwing it up over here.
but down in the corner, and it was transitory. I mean, it wasn't like it was there the whole time. It was like, okay, it's kind of there, and now it's kind of.
So it
not.
was actually a dimming. I wonder if it was like a shadow figure.
Yeah, that's could have been something like
Yeah.
a shadow figure or something that we were catching.
That's cool.
there because it wasn't. We weren't dark at that point. It was 8:30ish. The lights were off in the thing, but right now, and this was 2 weeks ago, like June 21st, where it was still light coming through the windows. Dusk twilight kind of light, but
Right.
it wasn't like dark, but you could see it, and you could see people. Well, it wasn't pitch black,
Yeah.
but you could kind of tell in the grid that
I
there
mean, the
was,
laser is super bright.
Yeah, and the laser's bright, but you could see that there was like muted in that lower corner.
Right. So one last question for you, Emmett, about the grids. I know that the dot grid, when I bought mine, they ran about $10-15. With inflation how it is, they're probably more like 20 or 30 now. But how much is the grid one, roughly?
Oh, the straight lines.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't remember, but that was I think the better part of $100 bill.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a ghost stop item.
Okay.
Right
So
now,
significantly
Yeah,
more.
don't quote me on it, but yeah, you're not going to get it for the cost of like a laser pointer with a
with
hologram
the
on the
dots.
front. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. No, that's a neat piece of equipment.
Speaking of equipment, I got a thermal camera for my birthday.
You did?
That's right. It's totally cool.
It's very cool. That was kind of at the top of my list, so I'm happy
Excellent.
because I can see when you fart now. So
I was really, really
She
disappointed.
can too.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
I believe it.
disappointed that it didn't come a day earlier because that was the day we actually went to this last investigation we were just talking about, and it was supposed to arrive on that day, and I was going to let her open it before her birthday if it came, and it was like, nope, it didn't.
but it's okay. I have it now. So and I've used it. I used it at Pitts and Gristmill.
Mm-hmm.
Neat.
The Paranormal Drunk Drawer is brought to you by the Hub Theater.
Yeah, they're great folks. We need to get back there here again pretty soon.
American Fork.
I'm really not trying to just be super hyper focused on Egypt. I promise. Even though I'm like totally immersed in it right now and love it. But I was working on my last paper, and the last paper was basically on mummies, and one of the things that she wanted to know was body and spiritual elements of the mummification process and the death process, and
Those
You
masks that
know.
look like the faces.
yeah, and just kind of, the whole, does Egypt have a religion? Anyway, I got to talk all about this. And as I was going through the lecture, because it's an online class, and so our lecture comes in the form of, like a PowerPoint. There are Egyptian ghosts. I did not know this. They have a very firm, strong belief in ghosts. They actually refer to them as elements. So different than an elemental, but there's just elements of the body and spirit, right? So the first one is called a sahu. It's a spiritual body. It's incorruptible. It's able to live in the heavens as long as the physical shell or the body pass judgment. So if you don't pass judgment, if you were a bad dude, your spirit can't do stuff. It still has all of its spiritual and intellectual capability of a physical person. So kind of like a ghost. The next one is called a Shechem. And the Shechem is pretty much just the life force of the dead. And as I read these, I thought they're all kind of the same thing. But in the Egyptian ideology, they're separate things. So after a Shechem, there's an Ach, which is also called a Hu or an Ichu. This is the immortal part of the dead. It actually lives in the Sahu, which is the first one we talked about.
They're all really interrelated.
They really are. Part of me was like, I think this is all just the same thing. But it's represented as light and radiance. Was what differentiates it. It can leave the tomb whenever it wants, And of all of these elements, this one is actually the most ghost-like, is this one. The next one is called a ba, and the ba is a human-headed bird. It's more of a shapeshifter that lives in the tomb. It can leave, and its job is to bring air and food to the deceased. So it's not necessarily a ghost, but it is a spiritual element that interacts, with the tomb and with the deceased mummy. So, they put all the food and
It's an intermediary between the two, the land of the living and the land of the dead.
Yeah, there's so much like life in their afterlife.
Yeah. And so, you almost think it may be akin to maybe what modern times would call an angel, maybe, or a spirit guide, someone that's there to
Guardian,
assist.
yeah.
Yeah. And then 2 more. So there's another one called a ka. The ka should never leave the tomb. It actually stays in the heart. It can't be seen, but after death it's released from the body, and its purpose is to give its dead master spiritual travel in the land of the living.
Hasn't the Ka been mentioned in some of the old classic movies? That's ringing a bell.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it needs, because, they believe that the deceased body needs food and, drink for eternity.
Right.
But it can inhabit whatever it wants, and it can actually haunt wrongdoers until they make amends. So if you do bad things in ancient Egypt, you're going to be haunted by the Ka.
Ka's all over you, man.
Yep.
You said it was attached to the heart. I know that they take certain body parts out of the mummy. Does the heart stay in the body, or is it outside and like to the side?
They're all in little
usually it's the
jars,
brain they
aren't
take
they?
out because
Yeah.
they said it was not important.
Well, there's 4 Coptic jars, and I think they put like the heart, the liver, the brain, and something else.
The onions.
I haven't gotten to that.
What in the world?
I just heard liver, and all I could think of was onions.
Liver and
Oh.
onions. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
don't remember.
Never. That's okay.
For someone who's fascinated with mummies, I should know what goes in the Ka, or in the Coptic jars, but I'm drawing a blank. And then the last one is a huh. It's just an H apostrophe. Huh. The huh detaches from the person, but it lives in the ba. And if you remember, the ba was the human-headed bird. That's the shapeshifter. It lives in the tomb. But it can leave and bring food to the deceased. So those are the spiritual elements.
Wow.
of
Apparently
Egyptian ghosts.
They're feasting a lot.
I
in
need
the
a
afterlife.
diagram just to keep them all straight, though. That's complex.
I know. I'm writing my paper, and she's like 2 pages each. I'm like, I'm at 9 pages, and I haven't even described what all these things do. I'm like, who can do this in 2 pages?
Just like we're all over the place. That's how I write papers too.
Well, that was interesting. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Stay spooky, my haunty friends.
And we'll see you next time.
Hey, good night.
Good night.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright by Advanced Paranormal Services.